Hello and welcome everybody to Pizza Industry Convos, part of the Pizza Club Network. I am Michael Fox, your host from Pizza Club and the Beach. I'm joined tonight by a very special guest, one of our own members of Pizza Club and co-host of the Pizza Roundtable every Tuesday night, 9 o'clock Eastern on YouTube Live. Jim Mumford. Jim, how's it going, Jim?
Hey, bud, how are you this evening?
I'm excellent. I'm doing really well. For those who don't know you from your time in Pizza Club and elsewhere, just really quick, want to make sure to kind of set the stage. Jim is an author, he's a writer, he's published in Inside Hook, and he's got a new book out called Pizzapedia, which we're really excited about, amongst many other things. He's also an engineer, completely
Cat.
separate from pizza. Yeah, casually an engineer. So we'll talk a little bit about everything. But Jim, thanks for coming on. Appreciate you being here. Good to see you, as always.
No, yeah, always good to be here. I love talking. It's a little odd doing a night early and, not being the host, so I'll have to adapt to that somehow. But I look forward to it. It's always a good time when we talk pizza and the like.
I love it. Yeah, 100% agree. I think we'll make it work. So Jim, tell us a little bit of a backstory on who you are, so everyone knows who doesn't really know your full story. Because it's really cool that you have an engineering background and now writing a book about pizza. Talk about how the hell you got into pizza and how this all came to be. Because it's
My
really a cool
gosh.
story.
It's a journey. So probably 8 years ago, I started a website, Jim Cooks Food Good, simply because I like to cook. Grew up Sicilian. I just kept asking, "What's your recipe for this or that?" Say, I'm going to put it on my website, right? Purposely backward sounding name, tongue in cheek, just because it was for friends and family, and that group, as things do. And it kind of got into writing recipes, did some ghost writing for a couple friends, and dabbled, but really didn't get into it till probably 2018, 2019. Unrelated to everything, took a road trip from Michigan, where I live now, to Connecticut, just because I had to get there immediately. Not related to food. It's snowstorm of the century. It took me 3 days to drive, 12 hours would have been. Highways closed, gotta eat. Google pizza near me, right? Love pizza, always have. And started to hit all these pizza shops, and that's interesting. And the engineer in me says, oh, it's curious. This is different than this, right? And why is this different? And in Old Forge, I was in Youngstown, I was in Buffalo, I did, Pittsburgh, all the way up through, New York, and then New Haven. Kind of I think, 8 different pizza shops along 3 days, no judgment, right? And I thought, wow, this is really cool. Someday when I have time, I'm going to sit down, figure this out, maybe something comes of it. And then the pandemic happened, and we had all the time in the world. And so I just kind of got curious about all the different regional styles. And that's kind of how I got into writing about pizza. Complete accident, right? It just, the road trip of my life, perhaps. And I think in that one road trip, I hit 12 pizzerias in a week. And I think all but two are featured in the book, which is pretty cool.
That's cool. But I mean, your interest in pizza predates all of that, even, I would imagine. When did you
Yeah.
start kind of making pizzas?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in a Sicilian household, right? So every pizza I knew, right, till I moved out, was in a rectangular pan. Round pizza was that other pizza we got at birthday parties. But that's, just kind of why I grew up. And my grandmother, my mom, I distinctly remember them plopping open the joy of cooking and looking at that pizza to make what I've now learned to call a grandma style pizza, right? The pizza was something we did all the time growing up. And, what dude, kid, football player doesn't love eating a pizza or two? And then, yeah, for a while in Chicago, I lived above a pizzeria. If I didn't love pizza then, I certainly did after my couple tours living above what now is probably my favorite pizzeria in the world.
Can you name names?
Oh, I can name drop Flo and Santos on
Okay.
South Loop in Chicago.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, Chicago pizza very different than New York style pizza, or it's its own thing. So, what was some of your faves in Chicago too that you like to check
Oh my
out?
gosh. So yeah, for Tavern, Flo and Santos, Vio's and Nick's are my two top. For kind of your deeper dish, Art of Pizza, Bert's Place, and Pequod's are my holy trinity. And then my slice shop is Demo's up in Wrigleyville. You can't just pick one, right? I mean,
No,
that's
there's
like
no. Yeah, it's like picking your favorite child or something.
exactly
You can't do it.
favorite breath of air ever. The next one is my favorite.
Yeah, exactly. So that's cool. So I guess I'd like to dive in a little bit on the book and talk about who is this book for and what is the idea behind the book. I know got a lot of different recipes in here, a lot of different styles. For somebody who's not familiar with this many styles, it's kind of cool that you get to dive into all of them. So give us a little bit of sense of like what the concept is behind the book.
Yeah, so the concept of this book, Pizzapedia, is there are 31 regional styles, 103 recipes, and the whole thing is kind of an expanse on my curiosity from the road trip, right? All of the different regional styles, mostly focusing on America and kind of what they are, how they're the same, how they're different, where's kind of the epicenter of that style. And, the first part is just a tour, right? Understanding, hey, Neapolitan's different than, Manhattan and Old Forge, all the different things and how they branch out of four main categories: thin, Sicilian, Neapolitan kind of, and then a pan pizza. And really, I wrote it for the average home cook, right? Who wanted to learn, right? Learn about all these styles. And then two, hey, I want to make the tray at home. What's a Cuban style pizza? I want to try that, right? So to kind of give them the roadmap to start learning all of these styles. The other sneaky thing that I didn't necessarily intend to do, but I think is my favorite part of the book, is with every style, there's a pizzeria that I kind of mentioned, right? My muses, many of the people who are, from Clubhouse that you introduced me to, frankly. And I highlight their kind of muse pizza and then my tribute to that home, because you'll never be able to do what they do, just, equipment, skill, whatever. But here's what inspired my styles. Here's what it is. And hopefully, I can draw some attention and share a little bit of that love that I found on that road trip, right? Both by learning and then experiencing some of their craft.
Yes, it's really a lot of cool different styles to go down. What were some of the challenges in, in putting together a recipe book with different styles that maybe are not as common? Are you always thinking about how the home cook can really make it work in their kitchen? I know that not everyone's got the best setup. Maybe they're just working with their home oven. What's your process for culling down these recipes and making them all work? Is there a lot of testing involved?
Yeah, so calling down's definitely it, right? Again, a lot of the pizzerias and the pizziolos were very forthcoming with here's how I do it. But they've got the stone deck and they've got, the experience and the mega mixer. And so the average home cook doesn't have that. So the challenge was, okay, I have an idea how the restaurant does it. How can I put this into the skills the home cook has with, an oven that might be unreliable, without a stand mixer, etc. And that was the challenge. Luckily, I have a lot of really great friends and family who kind of were both my guinea pigs, and then both in eating the pizzas that I made and then kind of trying it on their own. And I'm no expert pizza maker. Like you said, I'm an engineer, right? So in a way, I was kind of new at this too. And I kind of grew with the recipe and then kind of tried it. But you're right. Some of the recipes start with, the goulash or, the 4-day ferment, and just, I know the home cook won't do that. So how do I get that essence without, I would say, some of the pomp and circumstance that some of the pizzerias may do? Those are
And
definitely the challenge of the book.
yeah, no, for sure. I can imagine it's like hard to figure out what is the right approach. And looking at other cookbooks, I'm sure you've read others. What is something that you're hoping to do differently? What was something that you've done here that maybe you thought wasn't done before? Maybe some new styles. But I'm just curious, like, are there other things you approach this book that you're like, I hadn't seen that elsewhere. I kind of want to do it this way for my book.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, right? Because a lot of pizza cookbooks I found were either expert level or 101, right? And no offense either, that was their audience they were hitting. I kind of wanted to hit that 301 class, right? Thread that needle where everyone can get something out of it. And I think I nailed that. Again, with every style, I start with kind of the basic version of the cheese, and then I kind of ramp it up from that. And that's what I thought was maybe a little bit unique, is not only the 30 styles, the 100 recipes, which no other book, as far as I can tell, has that many. I also tried to, like I say, hit that sweet spot where if you've only made pizza twice in your life, you can probably get there. Or if you're a master at a different style, you can say, okay, I can relate that to something else and I can execute this.
No, it makes sense. I think it has to be accessible, right? It has to be approachable. You have to be
Exactly.
able to come to it without that knowledge set. And also, I was curious about like your engineering background, like how that's played into all this. Like, how did you use your engineering to approach making a book about pizza?
Yeah. So I am, right now working in chemical engineering, and the differences between making dough and making a chemical are really not that much, right? There's a recipe, there's ingredients, there's time, there's mixing, there's temperature. It's a process, right? And that kind of technical diligence you really need while making pizza, right? You can't be sloppy about, measuring your dough or how you mix it, how you do all of those things. And nor can you in the professional industry. So I think just my background of being used to not only being meticulous doing it, but the note taking during trials, right? Hey, I did this here, I did this here. I almost like an R&D kind of background. That helped a ton. I already had a really strong base and I knew, okay, I'm going to do three. Here's my control. Here are my variables, right? Doing some of those classic engineering terms, which was really, really helped, especially when I wasn't just trying to nail one style pizza. I was trying to nail 30. So the amount of testing, right? And frankly, there's only so many pizzas I can force onto my family. So I didn't get 10, 20 tries each pie. I probably only had 5 or 6 at most. So.
And thank you to your family for their service, by the way. We appreciate all of them.
Very
uh,
much so.
I want to ask about some of the lesser known styles in the book. Maybe you're familiar with some of the bigger names in pizza, like the New York styles and the Chicago's, but you've gone pretty deep here. Can you tell us a little bit about some things you discovered along the way with some of these lesser known styles?
Yeah, so I'm proud to say at no point did I Google styles of pizza, right? Because again, I wanted to kind of approach it from my own way. So every style I encountered in the wild, right, through my travels in life, and frankly through you and the pizza club, right? So that's kind of how I pick my styles. I started with 36, and then there was some debate: was it a style? Is it interesting? Can I write a recipe about it? And that's kind of how I pare down. Like you say, there are some that no one's heard of. The Cuban comes to mind, certainly Omaha style, no one has really heard of, but it's a thing. And, again, my travels, I've kind of learned that it's a thing. But there were some styles, there was a true Hawaiian pizza made with purple potato dough that is absolutely crazy. But I knew I probably couldn't get a home cook to get behind it, and there wasn't enough history. So that one's going to have to be on the outtakes reel. But we still, like I say, started with 36, and there are also a couple styles, not naming them, Altoona, that I couldn't make a version that I would want my friends and family to really really dig into. Is that kind of way to put that?
Yeah, and that's fair. I mean, also for like, because obviously there's a lot of professionals here too who are part of the pizza club and watch the show. And I'm just curious, was there anything that you think professionals in the pizza industry could take away from this book that you think might be something that you would share with a pro? Maybe there's some techniques or things that you learn that might be beneficial for them when reading this book.
Yeah, I think, for the professional and talking with professionals and just swapping stories, I think the takeaway is learning how maybe even your dough, your recipe, your blends of cheese, whatever, you could use that. And with just one small tweak to hydration or even just quantities, you could make, turn your tavern into a Sicilian, right? And you're pretty close, right? And I think that's fun because at least, some of the professionals I've talked to is I make this style. This is what I'm comfortable doing. But you're a lot closer than you think, especially with that background of skills that you already have.
100%. Yeah, no, I think it's an extra piece of advice or extra help to kind of grow your knowledge set. What are some of like the takeaways you think people have from culture and history in pizza that you learn from following all these recipes, just that you'd like people to take away from this book too?
Yeah, I think one of the main takeaways about kind of the origins of pizza, and you can really kind of nail down, like I said, all the styles to, a Sicilian, Neapolitan, and how it's morphed and grown. And even since I started writing the book 6 years ago, it's already morphed and grown, right? And the styles I picked then would probably not be the styles I pick now. So, my big takeaway is just it's so ever evolving. And I think, us as the world, we're ready for new styles, right? I mean, 20 years ago, you couldn't have just dreamed what a Detroit did, right? And how that blew up. And now they're everywhere. And, you start to see other styles, start to follow. So, I think it's just the pizza landscape is probably at light speed than we've ever seen, especially when it comes to the styles. I mean, I think, the consumer's ready for it and the market's primed. So I'm excited to see who's ready to be those pioneers on your Roman styles or whatever it might be. because I do think that, wave after wave is going to be not only coming, but it's going to be really welcomed by, like you say, the consumer.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I know with you, Will, and Anna doing Pizza Roundtable, you're kind of covering the pizza news every week. And I'm just wondering, is there styles that you have seen from that lens, or just in general with your research, is something that I think is going to take off on a bigger scale, whether it's Roman, or is there something that you're kind of betting on?
I think it's the taglio. I think the buy the slice concept,
Okay.
again, outside of New York, right, buy the slice isn't as prevalent, but I think that's going to explode. It's a very approachable slice, very customizable, and it's a little more, I would say, hardy, right, generally. So to me, I'm betting the farm that that's going to be the next big style, especially since, artisans, pizzas love to show off their skills, right? They just don't want to make a cheese and pepperoni every day. And that's a forum where you can do that probably a little bit easier than some other styles. So that's my bet, certainly. And they're absolutely delicious. They're very straightforward to make, certainly a little more than some other styles that, don't take the 4 days of, the prepping, massaging. It's a little more approachable than some others. So
Yeah,
that's
a
my
little
bet.
more forgiving.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, that's a good bet. I like that. I like that. Good answer.
Yeah.
I also want to talk a little bit about ingredients, right? Because I think when you're making a pizza, I mean, the first thing you're thinking about perhaps is where you're going to get your ingredients from, like sourcing products that maybe will make a good pizza. So I just curious to know about your approach to finding ingredients and looking at where do you kind of source your stuff from, and any general recommendation for people that are struggling with that part of it.
Yeah, and that was again a struggle from the book too, because I didn't want to say, well, you have to get imported cheese. I wanted to approachable. I wanted you to go down to your Mega Mart and get everything. So certainly tips and tricks, right? Use the good tomatoes, right? Grate your own cheese. I call out some recipes that use Parmesan, which is made in Wisconsin, Parmesan Reggiano, right? I tell when you can use which, because some recipes doesn't really matter. Some it matters a whole lot. So I try to be very purposeful on those higher shelf ingredients, when to use them and when not. But even then, bread flours have come such a long way. Where 20 years ago, I don't think you were finding a variety of double O flours. Now you can find 3 or 4 brands. So I think again, the grocery store is well stocked for us, but there are certainly some things that we can do to maximize those ingredients, especially for whatever pie we're trying to make.
No, that's a good point. I think like it's really important when you're doing a cookbook, you have to think about accessibility. Like you said, if it's not available in your local store, it's really hard to make something when you can't get your hands on it. So I think it's really smart that you've thought that through. Were there any styles that just ingredient wise had to cut it because it's hard to source? Even just something that you included that you're like, oh, this is a more difficult one to do, but
Yeah,
I want to include it.
the hardest one was St. Louis style by far, and for a couple of reasons. But first, they use a very distinctive cheese, that Provel, which is not really like anything you're going to get in the store. It's a processed white cheese. It has a very distinct smoky flavor. There's like smoke flavor added to it, and that was very hard to replicate, because if you're not in, Missouri or Southern Illinois, you're not going to find that. So trying to find a way to replicate that was kind of tricky. By far the trickiest in the book. I did find a way. I actually talked to some of the pizzerias who invented the Provel, kind of got like the version 1.0, which was pretty cool. But that was by far the hardest, because some of those very specific cheeses, brick cheese in Detroit comes to mind, right, are hard to emulate. I found a way, but that's where the majority of the pain and the testing came from, was, some of those hyper specific ingredients that just doesn't taste the same with that.
Yeah, no, it's like finding those one-to-one substitutions that if you can't get your access to, that's smart. I want to talk about the person who's trying to open their own pizzeria. They're looking at different styles in your book, or just in general. Is there any learnings that you came across through the process of making this book that could help a new pizzeria potential owner, pizza maker that's trying to get started? I know that this is geared more for the home pizza maker, but I'm sure there are lessons from doing this at home to upscaling these recipes and doing them in maybe in quantity.
Yeah, I think the big learn for me, again, watching friends and family, is the styles that used pans were generally a lot more forgiving, right? You don't have to just rolling it out, and some of the styles that might even have like a proof in the pan, like a bench proof. Those are a little bit more forgiving, and generally they're a lot more consistent too. If you're just starting out, maybe you've got the skills, but you're worried about getting a quality staff, right, who can come in behind you. I think some of those pan Sicilian styles, like you say, are again something you can make a lot more ahead of time, a little more, I say, forgiving, and they're very Instagrammable. They're thick, they're impressive, and the square slices for some reason just catch the eye. A big pie just really catches a burnt cheese rim, whatever it may be. So I think for those reasons, just both, ease of making, trying to get everyone kind of up to speed quickly. I think the styles that involve some sort of pan, bench proof would be the ones I would maybe toy with the most starting out. If you don't have a style in mind.
Fair, fair. And I'm not going to ask you to pick your favorite pizza in the book because
You can, but
that's just you can.
yeah, absolutely. Easy question. It is the pizza on the cover. It is the pizza, my go-to pizza my wife and I had at Flo and Santos, a tavern style. It's the pizza we ate the night we got engaged. It's a pizza I've had 100 times. It's a pizza her and I made that are on the book. So yes, I do have a favorite child in this case. It is that pizza on the front of the book.
Fair enough. Appreciate that. That's great. But I was going to say, was there one of the pizzas that you made that grew on you in a big way?
Yeah, there was, and it's Cuban style. So Cuban style, not made people know of. It's a pan pizza. It's very fluffy. It's made with a mixture of cheeses, including Gouda. So it's ultra buttery and creamy and gooey. And the sauce has got a lot more flavor to it. I love it. It is my go-to impressive pie because it looks just like a standard run-of-the-mill pan, but it's got so much depth of flavor and it's so unique. That blew me away. I love it. And again, it's very impressive, right? It's got the big burnt cheese rim, it's bubbly, but then you cut it and it just kind of oozes, and it's got a wow factor to it. Again, that pizza most people I don't think have heard of, and is an absolute sleeper in this book, one that I wish everyone would have heard of because it's so complex, and it's really one of the best pies I've ever had, truly.
How did you come across Cuban style? How did that first enter your radar? It's not a
Yeah,
style you hear about.
I spent a month down in Miami, South Miami for work, and I explored, and I ran into a couple places. Again, right? Drove find the local pizza shop, and Pock Homer was the place that really got to me. And yeah, it's a thing, right? It's a thing. South Beach, and it's kind of based on, if you think of a Cuban sandwich, right, that uses the Gouda and kind of uses some of those same ingredients. It's meant to be a street food. When they fold it in half and it just oozes, oh, it's absolutely incredible. That, again, right, not many people have heard of outside of South Florida.
That's cool. Really cool. I wanted to talk a little bit about kind of the pizza industry also as it relates to the book and also just in the broader scale, where the pizza industry at large is these days. Are we going to start to see more styles outside the standard ones? What's your take on it? I mean, I know you can't predict the future, but do you get a sense just from being around this all the time now where things are headed in the industry overall?
There have been an alarming amount of what I would call mid-sized chains contracting, right? I won't certainly name names, but you see them where, 40 locations around the city now are coming down to 20. And, to me at first that was alarming. It's, it still is, but where I think it is I think people, consumers, right, we got saturated on styles and types of pizza. So people are just going to go to their favorite tavern, their favorite New York slice, their favorite whatever it may be. Where I think there's an opportunity then is for when you know introduce other styles into areas where you can kind of interrupt the market, where there might be opportunities, especially as, again, some of those regional chains have started to contract because they've maybe oversaturated the market in one particular style. So we are starting to see that in cities. Detroit, again, was kind of that first wave, but I think other styles are going to come behind it. And it's not, do you want pizza tonight? Is, do you want Detroit style? Do you want a New York slice? Do you want a deep dish? Whatever. I think that's where the market is trending, based upon, again, what I see, looking at the news, 3 times a week and talking to all of our friends. I think that there's an opportunity to replace some of that demand in the market, and almost, there's an untapped market in some cities just based on styles, not just pizza as an entire segment.
Yeah, no, that's good insight. And I'm curious to see, will newer cities that I haven't seen pizza come in a bigger way, how will they take to that? Will we see a variety of styles coming? But it sounds like that's where it's headed. But We shall see. Is there anything else that we didn't cover in the book? Is there anything inside the book that you really want to call attention to, or that you're hoping get some love?
Yeah, there is, and I invented my own regional style. Apologies to all,
Yes,
but I live in Western Michigan, outside of Kalamazoo, which is halfway between Detroit and Chicago. And kind of in my playing and in my testing, I inadvertently created a style which I call Kalamazoo style, which is has the essence of a Detroit, has the essence of both Chicago styles, and it borrows from the cheeses, the sauces, and it looks like a very shallow Detroit, but it's round, it's party cut. Again, it was just playing from extra ingredients I had from both. But it's kind of near and dear to my heart. No pizzeria around this area makes it yet. But it was just fun. It's just kind of a mashup of all the things I've learned and kind of where I am. And that was a fun little regional style that everyone points out. Oh, I wasn't aware of this. Is this a thing? It's not a thing. I made it, but it's a little representation, I think, of my testing journey, and that one holds a little bit special place.
I hope that you're gonna try to convince some people that this is a style that they need to take on their menu. Is there regional pizzerias that you're going to be hitting up now that the book is available?
I can say I've been talking with one pizzeria about maybe having that as their alternate pizza and how they would pull that off. More to come, but there might be a Michigan chain that might be interested.
Okay, I love
There you
it.
go. Nice little
You'll have
tease.
to keep yeah, you have to keep us posted as that happens. Jim, I'm really excited that you're able to come on and talk about your new book, Pizzapedia, and thanks so much for making time. Is there anything else I wanted to touch on before we wrap up here?
Just as a thank you to you and the Grayer Pizza Club community, this book wouldn't be what it is without all of you, and especially you, Michael, introducing me to all these people and kind of giving me that outlet and, frankly, a forum to meet, a lot of these experts. So thank you to all of you. It's an absolute honor to be able to share my pages with a lot of you. And hopefully, we all can celebrate this together, because it's not just my book. It really includes a lot of the heart and soul of a lot of the members here.
Appreciate it. No, and look, this is your baby, and we're happy to support it. So we're grateful for you, and thanks for making time. And you can catch Jim every Tuesday night with Will and Anna on the Pizza Roundtable, 9 o'clock Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific on YouTube Live, right here on the Pizza Club channel. If you want to get your biggest pizza news stories of the week, make sure you tune in. And of course, you can check out Jim's Pizzapedia book, available now. Jim, how can people find you on social media?
Jim Cooks Food Good, wherever you get your content, you will run into me making pizzas and or probably something Italian one way or another.
Awesome. And of course, for Pizza Club, you can find us here on the YouTube channel. Make sure to subscribe and like and comment on this video. And you can also check out some of our other shows here on the channel and find us on Instagram. I Need Pizza Club. This is Pizza Industry Convos. We'll see you next time. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.